here to discuss the upcoming season for the Cedar Falls Waterloo Symphony Orchestra, and we have with us artist Gary Kelley, who is doing a special show with the orchestra. Gary, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
This year, we're doing Nachtmusik by Mahler, October 29th, and when Jason approached me with this thought last spring, a Halloween concert. I'm usually really busy, but I can always find time to do a concert with Jason and the symphony, and especially a Halloween concert. I was all in after about 2 words of that request. So I'm excited. I'm very excited about it. And actually, it allowed me to go into Mahler's music with Jason. I know he's one of Jason's favorites. It allowed me to go into Mahler's music in my studio with Jason, listening to the music and having Jason talk me through it from his point of view, from Jason's point of view. And that was a really big plus for the way I eventually will probably turn it around to my point of view visually. But it's always fun to work that way.
So your art is inspired by the music, listening to the music and trying to
absolutely
capture what you're hearing in visual form. Jason, how does this collaboration work between the music and the art?
Yeah, it's really an amazing thing. We might give folks a few moments of background here just to say that this idea of bringing Gary's art together with music goes back now about 10 years. The idea goes back further, but the realization of the idea initially about 10 years ago, we worked on The Planets. And this is a really iconic piece of music, and Gary had listened to it for many years and had really developed an idea of how he could see art unfolding with the music. And very much it is an unfolding of the visual experience. It's not a static thing, and it's not highly animated. It's somewhere in between. So over the years, we've refined that through a variety of projects. I've worked on the music of Duke Ellington and George Gershwin. We came back to The Planets and tweaked that one. And then we settled on this idea of doing something for Halloween. And of course, being a Mahler fan, I was pushing Gary to think about the Mahler, but what really I think ended up capturing our imagination, and this is something I'm sure Gary will comment on, is not only is the music quite vivid, and I think can elicit an emotional reaction, and can also encourage this sort of visual response that Gary's having. But the music of this period and the art of this period are also very interesting in the way that they're interlinked. This is the early 20th century when Mahler wrote this piece, and he was coming from his background, a very rural part of Bohemia, but coming to Vienna, which was a very sophisticated place, a melting pot of cultures where this great music and visual art was being made. So on one hand, there's the pure sort of just artistic substance, the aesthetic substance, and how do we tease out the feelings and the emotions in the music. And on the other hand, there's this great sort of historical story behind the characters who, this composer and the visual artist he knew, and even Gary's sort of storyboard that he's developed for this has a great history to it. So there's multiple layers going on, and one of the things I love about doing these projects is when people experience them, they immediately sense all those layers and all the depth of thought and feeling that's in there. And that's really what drives these projects on. So we've just had a blast doing it, and I think this one has got some new challenges, but also great new opportunities for us to try things we've not done. I guess I'd have to ask Gary if that's the case. It seems like it's got some new challenges.
Yeah, it does. The music, I don't know if subtle is the right word for it or not, but in some senses the music is more layered and more subtle, at least to my ear. So even though it's Halloween, it's not like going to be in your face Halloween. It's going to be told with images that are influenced by some of my favorite painters and artists from Central and Eastern Europe, Egon Schiele, an Austrian artist from the same period as Mahler, Klimt from the same period as Mahler, a lot of different painters. And generally speaking, it's going to be highly influenced by German expressionism and symbolism in Central Europe from that period. Those painters, those visual artists. And like Jason said, they all kind of percolated together in this culture from, say, 1900 to 1910. That's about the period that this is going to happen, that the visuals are going to happen, and that's when Mahler wrote the symphony. Now, I've taken the liberty to probably be more inspired by Germany than Austria because I have more connections in Germany. I know, I spent some time there this past summer, and I was on a mission to find inspiration for my visuals for the concert, and I did. For example, on a dreary rainy day, I found about 150-year-old Jewish cemetery in the woods, in the forest outside Bamberg, Germany, and the headstones and the stone fence and the trees and everything was just like, it's perfect for this. It's just perfect for this. And I took the liberty to go to Germany, I mean, with my visuals, and a lot of the audience won't probably know the difference between Germany, Austria, Hungary, wherever, because they're similar, but I took the liberty to do that because the narrative is going to be inspired by Nosferatu, which in German means a symphony of horror. And of course, Nosferatu was inspired by Dracula. So there's sort of a chain reaction here. And it's not going to be Dracula by any stretch with tuxedos and starched shirts and damsels on beds and things like, you know, there are kids involved. There are kids will be at this concert. But that's not my favorite realization of Nosferatu, of Dracula. I absolutely loved F.W. Murnau's 1922 version, which is sort of the character on the theme art for the concert that some of you have seen. And so that's the direction that I've taken it, with liberties, and it's not going to be the perfect narrative of Nosferatu, of Dracula. There will be a lot of other things happening. And the main thing is I want the audience to sort of be moved by the music and the images simultaneously, and then maybe fill in some of their own blanks. That's what I love about doing these things. I love to have people that look at my work be challenged just a little bit, whether they're 5 years old or 85 years old.
My experience is watching the collaborations in the past with the orchestra is that the artwork and the music work together to create something that's bigger than the sum of their parts. It's really kind of an overwhelming experience. One of my favorites was the Duke Ellington concert. You had a way of capturing the music in a way that was just unforgettable. And like Jason had mentioned, so many layers and messages within the paintings that if you're really watching a second or third time, you'd catch and really appreciate. Jason, we have a costume contest leading up to this concert, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the neat things about this concert is it gives audiences of all ages a chance to enjoy the holiday, enjoy the season. You know, we really take a step back sometimes with our programming at the Symphony and try and figure out, okay, how do we really create a special experience for people? I mean, you know, our lives are full of media all the time, and you've got your phone and YouTube's on all the time, and you can hear any piece of music you want at any time. The concert is really a special experience, and that's a big part of getting Gary involved, is something that can't be replicated anywhere else but in that amazing setting of the concert hall. And we've sort of built this whole concert to be that type of experience. And so We have this great costume contest, and now it's going to be its third iteration. So the third annual WCFSymphony Halloween costume contest is going to be happening before the program. We do it in the lobby. It's a ton of fun. I'm fully dressed up. Most people don't even realize that it's me in the costume until it's too late. And then, of course, we announce it on stage, the winners of our costume contest, and we have some special prizes. This year, we're going to be doing something very special that we've never done here before. I've done this once before with another orchestra, and it was a huge hit. And we're going to parade quite a few of the costumes across the stage at the beginning of the second half, and then we're going to announce the winners. So we're excited about that. It's also just a wonderful atmosphere. I mean, people always say, is a symphony an appropriate thing for me to bring my kids to? And this is a great concert to bring the whole family. I think everyone will find there's the spooky moments, but they're really tempered by the grandeur and the just overall the incredible sonic experience of hearing an orchestra. Gary's talked a bit about his work and how he's conceived that to be something that's really wonderful for all audiences. But also what we've done is tried to pick a few shorter pieces. The halves are just a little bit shorter than a typical concert so that kids can enjoy the whole thing and not, parents not feel like they're getting too fidgety or anything. So between the costume contest, Gary's work, some of the other pieces we've got on the program, and if I'm not mistaken, Jim may be able to confirm it, we often have special cookies and treats as well out in the lobby.
We will have treats for everybody, and I would recommend not only to get your tickets early for this one, but to come early if you want to be a part of that contest. We usually open at least an hour prior to the actual concert, so families and people should get there early. It's like a party festival out in the lobby prior to the concert, so get there early. And I did want to mention from being around Gary for all of these years, it's so interesting when we did the Nutcracker last year, Gary did close to 30 original artworks. I don't think people always understand what goes by the time he travels to Europe to research this one, and then he does 30 pieces of art and they film all of that and all the time they spend. It's just an unbelievable thing to be able to experience in the Cedar Valley. And those are the comments we had from folks leaving last year's concert. Just let me know when you do something like this again, and we want to attend that concert. So.
And a critical part of this too, Jim, you just reminded me, is our video collaborator, Jacob Mead.
Yep.
He was the guy at the Nutcracker. We sat in my studio for hours in front of a screen after we shot the original compositions, and he made things happen that I didn't know could happen to them. And he is wonderful to work with. He's a younger generation. He knows all this stuff I don't, which also reminds me of the fact that, like Jason was referring to, that generation is used to seeing images on their phone like this big. It's not the same as sitting in Gallagher Blue Dorn with a 30-foot screen suspended over a live orchestra. That's a special experience, whether it's live action video or something that I've created or some other artist has created and then keyed it to the music. It's like a music video, only it's live, and that's really special.
I can imagine that takes some very careful coordination to make that happen.
It does.
With the
It takes a lot of coordination. But that's part of the joy. I mean, there's a lot of satisfaction involved from the artist standpoint.
Listening to you, I think that I get that feeling that this is more than just a job for you. It's something you go out with a passion and joy. Can you tell us what kinds of things inspire you when you're working with the music?
Well, the emotion of the music, for sure, and almost any music I listen to, I try to create my own visual accompaniment, I guess. I know I just saw the film Dunkirk, and it's an incredible visual experience, but I thought when I left the theater, I thought if this score doesn't get nominated for an Oscar, or these sound effects don't get nominated for Best Sound, something's wrong, because that was so much a part of that film. And we can't quite do that, with our projects, but at the same time, I want to be driven by that kind of motivation, the music, and it's just a special experience, whether the music is quiet and it builds, or they're in this smaller composition. There are just some really interesting little surprises that just sort of drop in delicately, and then it gets big, and you try to storyboard the whole thing so it all makes sense. And I think, I mean, in some of the past concerts, not Ellington, not the one at Christmas, but all the concerts before that leaned a little bit on existing pieces I had already done somewhere, some other time. And I know for this one, this stuff will all be new. I mean, everything will be created just as it was for Ellington and Gershwin. I mean, not Ellington, Gershwin, but Ellington's Nutcracker. It'll all be new stuff.
Gary brings up a good point. My wife is a good example of, until she'd experienced what Gary and Jason did in the last couple of years, she'd never really thought when she was watching TV or films or whatever about the music, and it was just always there. And now she, after a particular movie, she'll say, boy, did you hear the music, and to visualize what was probably going on behind the scenes. So there's a whole new world there that these two are offering. Again, here in the Cedar Valley, it's just a great, another quality of life thing for us. So it's pretty special.
I'm really looking forward to this concert, and I would love to know, how do people get tickets for this concert?
Not only do people get tickets, but I just have to say this for Gary, because we forgot to talk this morning about that. But last year, if he did 30 artworks, I think the next day or two, almost all of those were sold. People just couldn't wait after they experienced this to be a part of that ongoing. For tickets this year, you can go to the Gallagher Unitix box office, and you can get them right there and look where your seat's going to be on screen. Come in and see us any day there with the Gallagher folks, or you can get on our Symphony website, WCFSymphony. You'll find us all over the internet and Facebook and wherever. Or you can call our office. If you have questions, you're wondering about that day, you're wondering about costumes, call Grace at that 273-3373.
Well, I'd like to thank our panelists today, Gary Kelley, Jason Weinberger, and Jim Miller. And I hope you will all go out and get concert tickets for this upcoming season. Thank you.